Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we have the pleasure of having my man Tony with us. He is another entrepreneur, another marketer. He's been in the staffing and recruiting industry for over 20 years, Tony?
Pretty much.
and still loving it. So Tony, tell us about your company and how do you help recruiters and how do you do it?
Well, firstly, thanks very much for having me on the show, David. And yeah, I'm not a true recruiter. I don't sit down with candidates and do the interviewing and make the placements, but I've worked in the online recruitment space, as you say, pretty much 20 years. My business now is Social Hire. So that's socialhire.com. And we're a social media agency specialized in the recruitment sector. So what we typically do is work with clients who want to generate a new stream of candidate interest. So we might be generating candidate flow in a particular niche market, or want to generate client leads, or just generally want to raise their brand awareness and be better known than any of their competitors in their market. But we do that all through social media and through taking on the role effectively of a social media manager for those companies. And that's around the English-speaking world. So we have loads of clients in the US, here in the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So we get to see a little bit of what's working everywhere.
Awesome, Tony. So I'm really happy to have you on the show. And you know, we help recruiters. We do lead gen for recruiters and staffing agencies. And as far as social media, like, what are you seeing that staffing recruiters can do right now that can impact their social media presence? If you can give them one tip, what would it be?
One tip would have to be to focus on engagement. If you take 100 recruitment businesses in any market at the moment and you look at what they're doing on social media, 90 or more of those 100 will still be focused on promotion. Their social media feeds will be, pumping out content, pumping out vacancy adverts, sell with very little engagement going on. And the trouble at the moment is all the social sites, over the last year or two have moved towards really engaging rewarding posts that are getting engagement. So you could have a recruitment business that puts out a couple of good posts a week that get really good engagement, and they would actually have far more visibility and be getting far more results than a recruitment business that is churning things out multiple times a day. So I think there's obviously loads of things you can do differently on social media, but for me, that is the biggest thing holding back recruitment businesses from getting more results.
And you answered my next question, which is, why is engagement so important? And guys, just to clarify that, reiterate that, it's because it's not the quantity of what you're putting out. It really is the quality that these social media platforms are now rewarding you for being engaging, for putting out quality content. And Tony, if there was do you feel it's better to focus on just one platform or to be kind of everywhere?
You want to be really expert on a platform, in my opinion. So if you've got enough resource in the business that you can do multiple platforms and do them really well, then obviously that's great. But another shortcoming I would see with recruitment businesses, and part of the reason that they just promote and push things out rather than engaging, is that they're spreading themselves too thin. If you want to do a good job on LinkedIn, that is going to be measured in hours per days, not minutes per week. And the same is true of every platform. So if you're a small business and you can't afford the time to do a good job across multiple platforms, then I would just pick one and stick with that. Obviously, if you've got the resource or you bring in someone like ourselves to help with that, then you can start spreading your wings and being in more places.
Awesome, awesome. And that's exactly our philosophy on it as well. We rather put our eggs in one basket and be great at a platform than just be average on all other on multiple platforms, because you're going to get less bang for your buck that way. And if you were to choose one platform right now between Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, which platform is giving recruiters the most return on investment for their time?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question, in the sense that I would say there isn't one answer fits all. So the starting point, working with any business, whether they're in recruitment or not, is to understand what is the market that they want to go after, and then figure out where can those people be reached most effectively. And obviously, LinkedIn has great reach in lots of industries and in lots of countries. But it's not universally true that it's the best place to reach and engage with any particular audience. So, we typically work with clients on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, sometimes Instagram. Mm-hmm. But where we will devote time to those platforms, that will vary from client to client based on their brief, geographically where they are, what professions they're in. Are we trying to engage with candidates or with potential clients? All of these things are going to impact, where is the right place for you to actually be investing your time.
100% agree with that. Now, how did you get into this whole social media for recruitment in the first place? Tell us a little bit about your origin story.
Yeah. So I started out my career as a strategy consultant, and after a few years, around the time of the dot-com boom, for those listening in that are old enough for that, saw the opportunity to launch a niche job board in Europe focused on the management consulting sector. So, our clients there were companies like, Accenture and Deloitte and McKinsey and IBM. And so since 2000, I've been in online recruitment, helping companies, to make hires through online digital means. Mm-hmm. But then what we obviously saw, particularly around the time of the financial crash, just more and more companies shifting their spend from those kinds of means of recruiting and more putting their budget into social media, be that searching on LinkedIn or be that advertising on Facebook or whatever else. And so that for me, I'd also sold that business during that time. So I was liberated to be able to go and do something else. And yeah, saw some speakers in the early days of social media taking off, really got me enthused about social media. Actually started out on Twitter, was the first one I experimented with. And I just got hooked. And I loved the fact that you could have so many conversations with people all around the world and literally go from, not knowing someone to being on a call to making a sale, in a matter of days. For anyone that's been in sales, that's a sort of dream scenario, that you don't have to be cold calling people anymore. You're only talking to people who have actually said they'd like to have a chat with you.
Yeah, that is the dream scenario. But I feel like a lot of people, when they're new to digital lead generation, they don't understand that it takes time, right? Just like building a relationship with someone, you're not going to just ask them for a date on the very first interaction. It takes time to earn their trust. I feel like the same thing is digitally, and this is why having social media presence is important. This is why building out your brand on social media is important, is because you're getting those digital touch points with your targeted audience. So this way, when it comes time to pitch them or to show them how you can help them, they're already warmed up. They're ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make your own luck, don't you? If you're doing the right things on social media, you've really, put your heart into it, you may get lucky. We've had clients, my old record was within 24 hours, someone had a sales meeting through work that we'd done. And I always used to, if ever I was telling any other potential client about that, I would say, look, this is really unusual. So I don't want you to go away thinking this is what's going to happen when we work with you. But this is just an example of how fast it can happen.
Yeah.
And then in the last year, we actually had someone get a sales call booked within an hour of us starting. So that sort of made the example even more ridiculous.
We actually had someone sign a $40,000 contract within 3 days of us starting.
Wow.
We're hoping to have that, we're hoping to beat that record. But again, it's not the norm, but it can happen with digital marketing and social media.
Yeah. And when I'm running webinars and training sessions and stuff, I always say to people, look, give yourself 3 months of doing the right things, all the things that need to be done, and then assess things at the end of that 3 months. And if you've been doing the right things, you will see enough results after those 90 days, that the business can then justify this is definitely something we should be continuing with. If you get results, in a shorter time window than that, then fantastic. But a warning for me, a warning bell is always if I'm talking to a business that is coming to us because they're in some kind of dire straits, or they urgently need new clients tomorrow, or they need to transform their candidate generation overnight. I'm very candid with people and say, look, that's not a realistic expectation. You should be looking at social media as how can I be really advanced versus my competitors a year from now compared with where we are today. And if that's your mindset, then social media is going to do wonders for you. But if you're looking at it to solve massive problems you've got in your business, be that candidates or clients, overnight, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment, I would say.
Yeah, I like to say to our clients and our prospects, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your marketing. It takes a little bit of time to build the foundation. And Tony, you mentioned some really good things, and I'm a practitioner. And can you give us some examples of some bad things to do on social media, or some not so smart things to do, and then some quality, some good things to do to really boost your social media engagement and actually build that foundation?
So anything that's spammy is bad, generally speaking. We've all been on the receiving end of accepting connections on LinkedIn, and then, within a matter of hours, because the person's got their LinkedIn on some kind of autopilot, you're getting messages pitching you for a sales meeting or whatever. That for me is an example of doing things badly. And Twitter was really plagued by this for years, with all the sort of auto DMs that you used to have tools sending out for people. What I would say though is people's experience of that often makes them think that those are inherently bad things to do. And actually they're not. If you are growing a network on LinkedIn and you do reach out to people with private messages, a few weeks after you've connected, and the message is, engaging them rather than just trying to pitch for a sales meeting, that is incredibly effective. So I think it's a fine line, distinguishes what's really terrible to do on social media and what works really well. Does that answer your question?
It sounds like you're saying that the automation itself isn't what's bad. It's the psychology of how you use the automation. If you figure out how to give one person value, and then you scale it to you're giving 1,000 people value, it's valuable, and you have 1,000 engaged persons. But if you spam and you kind of like, hey, I just met you, buy my stuff, to one person, you do it to 1,000 people, then you just spammed 1,000 people.
Yeah, and you know, it is a mindset. There are people who get this instinctively, and people who are just hardwired that they want to sell, promote. So it does change, require a change of mindset, or it requires you to have someone in the business do it who just has the right mindset. But, I'll give you an example. So in the earlier days of the business, I was building my network with recruitment business owners. I could have followed up, hours after they connected and said, I'd love to jump on a call and tell you how social hire can transform your business. But I didn't. And what I did instead was I looked for events that were taking place in London, as my focus was at that time, that were for recruitment business owners. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to people with private messages and said, hey, I saw this event's taking place in London 3 weeks from now. Just wondered if you're going to be going yourself. I'm thinking I might well attend. So it would be great to have the chance to meet in person there if you do decide to go. Mm. And what I got from that was huge response. Loads of people really appreciative that I'd actually brought this event to their attention. I had loads of people meet me at events like that, and they would turn into clients. I had loads of other people, write back and say, Tony, I can't make that one, but it would be really useful to have a chance to meet or jump on the phone. So, when can we do that? And that's just, as I said right at the outset, engagement is where the majority of results often come on social media. And so that's where you need to focus, as much of your time and effort as possible.
So I love that story, by the way. And I think there's something that needs to be addressed in that story that I want our listeners and our audience to realize, that is what Tony did was he gave something that people would perceive as valuable. It was relevant to that niche and that audience. And that's why it was valuable. But what in turn happened was they now looked at his profile. They now checked Tony out. What does Tony do? This is a nice guy that's giving me something of value. Now they're going to go look at his LinkedIn profile. So this is why it's so important that you have an engaging profile that's built to speak to your target audience. So now they're going to see his headline, they're going to see his picture, they're going to look at his summary, and they're going to read some of the things and look at some of his posts, and they can see, oh, this guy helps recruiters. And now that's why they want to get on the phone with him, and they're asking for the call rather than he's asking for the call. Does that make sense?
I think that you described it perfectly. And the other spin-off benefit I would say of that is you also then will find you get more engagement on your posts, because if the people that you're connected with on LinkedIn feel like they've had some personal interaction with you, they're more likely to jump onto things that they see, in their homepage feed, whether that's on Twitter or LinkedIn or anywhere else. So actually, when you are posting on those kinds of platforms, you're also going to get more engagement. And because the platforms reward engagement, that means your posts are going to be far more visible than competitors who aren't doing those things. So it's a multitude of benefits from focusing on that.
Oh yeah. And right now, what we're seeing is video. There's a party going on with video right now. We're getting massive impact with our videos, and I just want to make sure our listeners understand that, if you're on social media and you're not doing video, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to engage with your audience.
Yeah, and I think that's true both of free social media, so you just posting things on a site, but it's also true of paid advertising. If you are running paid campaigns, you will get more visibility for your advert if it is a video versus if it is just a link to an external website. So multitude of reasons for going down that route. And I think video is really interesting. I think it's powerful for two reasons. One is that the sites themselves are actually prioritizing showing it.
Yes.
So if you are, we'll stick with LinkedIn because it's the one that recruiters tend to be most interested in. If you are posting on LinkedIn, a video each week, and your competitors are posting their job ads, for example, they are posting a link that takes people off LinkedIn, which LinkedIn doesn't like, and they penalize. You are posting something that keeps people on LinkedIn, which LinkedIn like, and so they prioritize showing that in the feed. So immediately you're starting from a position where what you're putting out on social media is going to be seen a lot more. But then also the other benefit is it's really good at helping people to warm to you. If they see you on camera presenting, or they hear you running through a screen share of how to do something that will help them, or talking through the state of the market, or whatever it might be, that creates more of a bond. People feel they know you more than if they've just seen, text posts and you recommending blogs that people should read.
It's almost a micro celebrity effect, right? The more they see you, the more likely they are to actually engage and do business with you. I mean, this is marketing 101. This is why Coca-Cola spends billions of dollars to have their adverts all over, is because the more you see it psychologically, you're just gonna, you're gonna, instead of saying, hey, I'm gonna reach for a soda, it's like, no, I'm gonna reach for a Coke, right? We have that ability nowadays with social media to do that on a micro level, where if you invest and, in doing video, instead of just making a regular post, now what happens on LinkedIn specifically is your connections that you're making, LinkedIn will actually promote those videos to your connections and say, hey, such and such just made this post, check it out. And you're getting free advertising, which will cost you we all know how expensive LinkedIn marketing platform can be, which typically costs you, hundreds of dollars. They'll actually put that out to your audience for free just by you taking the time to sharing your opinion in a video.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And we can talk about this kind of stuff all day. Tony, how can people, if they want some advice, they need some help with social media, how can they reach you? How can they get to you?
Yeah, so very happy to accept connections on LinkedIn. So if you look me up, Tony Restell, that's Restell. I'm on there, as you can imagine, every day. So very happy to answer things there. Or on Twitter at Tony Restell. And our website is social-hire.com. So you'll find a ton of resources and webinars and ideas on how to use social media there. So hope to hear from some of you after the call.
Awesome. Guys, go check it out. Social media is if you're not utilizing and leveraging social media in this day and age, you're missing out. That's all I gotta say. So check Tony out, guys, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode. See you then.